Hello, boys and girls. Mr. Palast here. I have a great story. Rapunzel, another fairy tale by the Brothers Grimm. I'm going to get right into it, okay? In a small village surrounded by fields, there lived a man called Nicholas and his young wife Anna. For many years, they had dreamed of having a baby, but with no luck. Then one day, their wish was finally granted. When she was alone, Anna looked out of the window and sighed. It was a beautiful spring day, and she longed to go outside. I wish I had a garden like that, she said, looking at her neighbor's garden, which was full of all sorts of wonderful flowers and plants. I would cook those delicious looking vegetables. Their elderly neighbor spent all their time tending to the garden. In the village, it was rumored that she was a witch who used spells and potions to grow magical plants, and indeed a witch she was. Anna thought that Rapunzel looked especially delicious. The more she looked at it, the more she wanted some. So when Nicholas came home, she said, "You wanted to give me a surprise for dinner? Well, I would like some Rapunzel, please." "Where will I find that?" said Nicholas. "There in our neighbor's garden," she pointed. "You want me to sneak into the garden of that witch? What if she catches me?" Nicholas replied. "Well, don't get caught," said his wife. That night, Nicholas climbed over the wall and surrounded their neighbor's garden and very slowly made his way to the vegetable patch. After collecting a handful of Rapunzel, he hurried home, shut the door behind him with relief, and said to his wife, "I've done it! I'm never going back to that garden again." But maybe the Rapunzel really was bewitched, because after tasting delicious leaves, Anna refused to eat anything else. She fasted for days until she became ill. Nicholas was desperate, and in the end he decided to had sneaked back into the neighbor's garden. However, he was not so lucky this time. He was returning home, his arms full of Rapunzel. He met the old witch. Nicholas shook with fear. Uh, I'm sorry, they're for my wife," Nicholas stammered. "She's expecting a baby and refused to eat anything other than Rapunzel. She is ill, and I'm very worried about her," he continued. The old woman pointed to a skeletal finger at him and said, "She may have the Rapunzel, but only under one condition." "Anything," said Nicholas, desperate to get away. "When your daughter is born, you must give me to her. Give her to me," she said. Nicholas was speechless. Give their long-awaited baby to this woman in exchange for some Rapunzel? It was ridiculous. But Nicholas needed to get home. He would think of what to do later. So he said, I promise you." Satisfied, the old woman stepped aside and Nicholas fled. On returning home, he told Anna what had happened, but she just smiled. "That old woman is joking. She wanted to scare you, and she certainly managed to do that." Nicholas thought that his wife must be right, and they both forgot the incident. Several months later, a beautiful baby girl was born, and she occupied their every thought. After a few years, however, the old woman knocked on their door. Nicholas and Anna tried to hide the little girl, but the witch raised her stick and whispered a spell, managed to take the girl from their mother's arms, and vanished with her. Nobody knew where she had gone. The witch named the child Rapunzel and took her to a faraway land. Together they lived in a small house deep in the forest. Only a few travelers ever visited those parts, and the witch told everyone she was the child's grandmother, and the girl had been orphaned in a tragic accident. She said the same thing to Rapunzel, who had never doubted her words. The witch became very fond of the girl. She showed her the kindness and the love of a real grandmother. She let her help mix potions and revealed to her the secrets of growing lush flowers and delicious vegetables. The only thing she did not allow her to do was stray too far away from the house. She was very protective of the girl and was so afraid of losing her that she forbade her to talk to anybody. The years went by quickly, and the child grew into a beautiful girl with long golden hair. The witch decided to lock her inside a tower that was hidden by trees. There's a tower. Completely surrounded by a thick, thorny hedge. Using a magical spell, the witch made the stairs. The entrance to the tower disappeared. The only opening that remained was a tiny window. Whenever the witch wanted to climb inside, she cried, "Rapunzel, let down your hair so that I might climb up to you." The poor girl spent the days alone, and unhappy about her sad fate, consoled her by singing, which was her only joy. One day a prince went by, and attracted by the girl's voice, he approached the tower. When he saw the girl at the window, he immediately fell in love with her. He searched for the door to the tower so he could reach her, but finally he gave up as there was no door to be found. He soon realized the poor young woman was imprisoned in a tower, so no one could ever enter nor escape. Just then he heard footsteps and quickly hid. From behind a tree he saw an old woman making her way to the tower. Once there, she clapped her hands and shouted, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." She had done this every day since she had been imprisoned in the tower. The witch grabbed hold of her hair, climbed onto the window, and went into the tower. A little while later, the prince saw the witch leave the same way that she had gone up, using Rapunzel's long hair as rope. When she was sure that she had gone, he walked over to the tower and cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." At first she didn't recognize the prince, and she was very frightened and tried to hide, but Rapunzel heard his gentle voice and saw his kind eyes. She welcomed the prince. By now Rapunzel had learned the old woman was not really her grandmother, but a witch who had taken Rapunzel from her parents when she was young. She told the prince that the witch didn't want Rapunzel to leave her, and so had kept her prisoner in the tower. "I'll help you escape. I'll take you to the other side of the world if you need to be. So she cannot find you," promised the prince. The two of them spent the rest of the night talking, and at dawn the prince slid down her long hair, stopping in the clearing to blow her a kiss. At that moment the witch came out of the forest and saw him. Once the prince had gone, the witch walked over to the tower and called to Rapunzel as usual. She raised her stick and softly whispered a spell. Immediately Rapunzel fell to the ground asleep. Picking up a large pair of scissors, the witch cut off her long hair and tied it tightly to the window. She then cast a spell to make a long spiral staircase that led out of the tower. She hoisted the sleeping girl down the stairs into a nearby cave. The witch placed Rapunzel on the ground and then found a large rock, which she dragged across the entrance to the cave. At sunset, the prince came to the tower as promised and called out to Rapunzel to help him climb up. The witch threw down Rapunzel's hair and waited for him. The prince turned and came face to face with the witch. "Where is she?" he said. "Where is Rapunzel?" "She is imprisoned in a cave in the forest, where you will never find her." The witch raised her stick and began whispering a spell. And as the prince jumped back to avoid the spell, he fell through the window and into a spiny hedge below. He was battered and bruised, but he did not seem to be badly hurt. But when he opened his eyes, he discovered to his horror that the witch had managed to cast a spell on him. After all, he was blind. He stumbled to his feet and heard the witch scream, "You may still be alive, but you'll never find out where Rapunzel is." After several hours, he heard the sound of a sweet singing. He followed the music, came to the cave, the entrance of which was blocked by a large rock. He realized that this was where Rapunzel was and called to her. Working together, they managed to move the rock, and Rapunzel, finally free, threw herself into the prince's arms. When she saw what the witch had done to the prince, Rapunzel began to cry. Her tears fell on the prince's eyes and broke the evil spell, so the prince was able to see again. However, the witch saw them from the tower. She picked up her stick and pointed at the bush below, casting a spell on it, turning it into a monster. In all her anger, the witch accidentally fell on top of the bush and landed in the thorns, which grabbed hold of her and squeezed her until she suffocated. At last, the lovers realized that they were truly free. One afternoon, Rapunzel was very quiet and thoughtful. "You look sad, my dear Rapunzel," said the prince. "What's wrong?" "I was thinking about my parents. For years I thought they were dead, but I know the witch lied to me. I've been wondering where they were and dreaming of seeing them, but I know this is impossible." "Maybe it isn't. I will send knights to every corner of the kingdom. They will visit every village, town, or city. I am sure they will find them." But the weeks passed, and there was no news. Finally, the day of the wedding came. Rapunzel felt so happy, but the day would not be perfect without her parents there. Suddenly the prince knocked on the door. "Rapunzel, I have a surprise," he said. "You cannot see the bride before the wedding. It is bad luck." She said, laughing. "In that case, I'll close my eyes, even if I miss your smile." Rapunzel opened the door, and there were Nicholas and Anna, their eyes shining. She hugged them. Now her day was really perfect. All right, boys and girls. Hope you're ready to summarize Rapunzel.